Hey everybody, Jason here. Ever since Blinky got really big, or 17.5 stock racing started to get big, the debate has just raged on and on between stock racers and guys that race modified. And the argument is, oh, you should be racing mod, and then they'll say, no, I want to race stock. Well, you're too fast for stock. And so this debate and this whole thing has just really turned into a debacle. And I thought I would just take a few minutes and share some of my own personal thoughts. I'm sure it's going to be a little controversial, but I think that you'll find that I'm a pretty fair guy. First of all, let's talk about what stock is and what stock isn't. First of all, stock really is a class that has a semi-level playing field. I say semi-level because there are clearly, with all things being equal, two guys driving two cars and one car is a little bit faster. He obviously has a little bit of a competitive advantage, all things being equal, right? With that said, you could also build a $2,000 car, but if you can't drive 5 minutes without a marshal, then $2,000 worth of the goodies just goes out the window every time you put the car on the track. So stock, what stock is, it's a racing class with a semi-level playing field. What stock isn't? So many people feel like stock is a beginner class, and really what you'll find is that nothing could be further from the truth. Now, in the old days, I was told that stock was created specifically to control two things. One, for lesser skilled drivers to be able to compete, and two, to kind of control the budget of these racers getting into the hobby. Well, now it seems to me that both of those rules or both of those agendas are kind of gone. The bottom line is that to compete, these high-end stock buggies cost multiples of what it would cost you to run a mod buggy. Not only that, but so much else is going on. Just the support systems. You see these guys buying these buggies, and they've got titanium screws and ceramic bearings and custom chassis and this and fans, and then they go out and buy 4 or 5 motors to measure the resistance. And they've got all these super high-end batteries, and they got these super expensive chargers. I've even heard stories of guys now charging at 70 amps. There are stories of guys not only charging at 70 amps, but they're taking the tires on their car, and they're cutting sections out of them to make them smaller, to make the foam smaller, make the overall tire diameter smaller and lighter. And I mean, I just think that you're going to find that in any class where we're limiting horsepower, you're going to find guys absolutely pushing the envelope as far as they possibly can in order to go as fast as they can. And that's just the nature of spec class or this type of racing. And it's a little frustrating to me because there's always some guy that's willing to push it a little farther than he probably should. And in the case of like this super high amperage charging, I kind of feel like there's a good chance that at some point this is really going to get dangerous. And I would hate to see someone truly get hurt because some guy wants to shave a couple of tenths off of his lap time. But let's talk for a second why someone might choose to run stock. And as you guys know, I've run stock myself. Now, for the last few years, I've really kind of been an opponent, kind of on the other side of the stock argument. I was kind of one of the guys that said, hey, look, just run mod. And if you can go, one of the guys I really respect owns OCRC. His name's Robert Black. And I asked RB one day, I said, how do you feel about this whole debate? Because it rages everywhere. And stock buggy is huge, both here in California and specifically in Arizona. There's just 2 really big communities of guys that race 17.5 buggy. And RB said it best. He said, I just feel like if you can put a mod motor in your car and go faster over 5 minutes, then you should. You should be running mod. And I definitely think he has a really valid point. But let's get into some of the specifics about this. When you're club racing, we race RC cars because we're competitive. It's part of our nature. That's why we do it, right? But I think people are forgetting that we're also there to have fun. 99.9% of the people can put any motor they want in their car. They can put any setup, any tire, anything, and they're not going to keep up with Ryan Cavalieri. They're not going to keep up with Ty Tessman or Dakota Fend or Mayfield or any of these guys. It just isn't going to happen. These guys are, number one, they're wickedly talented, and they've been doing this. It's like they have like this lethal combination of being super talented and coming up from being a little kid doing this. So their skill set and their ability and their talent is just beyond reach for the vast majority of us. And so basically I kind of divide this into 2 sections. You have club racing and you have big races. When you're club racing, there was a time when an A main meant something. When I was a kid and I raced on-road for a little while, I remember just making the A main was like, that was all I needed for the night. If I made the A main, I was absolutely thrilled when I raced mod touring car. I never even crossed my mind to try to win. I mean, I knew that probably wouldn't happen. I think the best finish I even ever had at a club race, because I was racing against some very, very fast guys, was like maybe a 4th. But today, everybody wants to win a race. It's almost like 5-year-olds that everybody gets a trophy for playing soccer or t-ball or something like that. We've got sportsman stock and expert stock and mod, and we're just breaking these classes up more and more so that everybody can be competitive. And I think what's happened is, because we've broken these classes up so much, everybody shows up with an expectation to win. They're not hoping to win, they're expecting to win. And that's a huge change it's a huge shift in mindset from what I think it should be. What it really comes down to is that we do this for fun, 99.9% of us. And yes, we want to win. But you know, one of my buddies, Chad Dew, who's a super fast guy from back in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, he's a factory associated driver. He said, you know, Jay, there's nothing wrong with winning. In fact, he won the open portion of the Reedy race a couple of years ago. But he said, some of my favorite memories and some of the best times I've ever had racing are me and some guy battling for 6th, and it's just super tight and super clean for the whole race. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is, we're racing RC cars. It should be, I think, the experience. You're out spending time with your friends, doing a little trash talking, you're having fun. If you went and played poker today and took, let's just say, $30 with you, or let's just say you go to a tournament and there's 50 guys, and you put in your $20 to play poker all night. If you don't win, you're not going to hate the world. You don't even probably go expecting to win. You go hoping to win, and if you didn't win, you spent 20 or $30 to have a good time, to sit around and enjoy your friend's company and kind of engage in an activity that you enjoy. And I think that's what we need more of in RC. And so that brings me back, you know, obviously that brings us back to the whole stock and mod debate. I was just at a big race and the guy said to me, why don't you sack up and run mod? And I thought, he says, don't you want to know where you stack up against all these top guys? Well, you know, so much of this is conditional. I kind of feel guilty for like putting all these conditions on this stuff. But if you're one of the racers out there and you only get to race against Ryan Mayfield or Cavalier or these top tier racers once a year and you want to run mod, go for it. As long as you're not like 3 laps off the pace and you're not just flat out like a rolling speed bump and in the way, go ahead and run mod. At least you'll know when you finally, you know, we all know when we've given it our best. When you've had your best run, you haven't blown any corners, you haven't had any marshals, and you've given it your best, you will see where you stack up against the best guys in the world, and that's a pretty cool experience. Now, if you're someone like me who could go to OCRC a couple times a week if I wanted to and race against the best guys, I know where I stack up, and let me just tell you, it's not at the top. So when I travel to a race, let's just say like the J Concept Summer Indoor Nationals that I just got back from a little while back, is it worth spending hundreds of dollars on gas, $500 on a hotel, $100 in entry fees, tires, food, all this, just to go and let's just say be DQ or CQ or something like that? I would say no. When I travel to a big race, I want to be competitive, and so that's why I chose to run stock. Now, ironically, I wasn't the fastest guy there. I wasn't even really I was probably one of the top 10 fastest guys there, and stock racing really is very close, which is one of its benefits. And I had a really good time racing up there, even though I didn't win any of the classes. I think I ended up 4th in Stadium Truck, which is a great drive for me. I drove from 9th to 4th in the A main, so I got no complaints. But I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that the decision to run stock or mod is really a very personal one. You know, as our lives progress, right? I'm in my 30s, right? If you're 12 or 13 and you're watching this video, you could continue to get faster and faster and faster over the coming years. And while you may be racing stock right now, next year or the year after that, maybe you really should be in mod. Maybe you have it. Maybe you'll be a top pro. Who knows? But if you're watching this video and you're 45, odds are you're as fast as you're going to get, or maybe close to it, depending on how much you practice. And so based on our hand-eye coordination and our vision, we all kind of have a trajectory at some point in our lives. Like we all get faster and faster and faster. And then when our senses start to fade or we stop practicing or we kind of lose a little bit of passion, we start to, you know, fall off. And now for some people, if you just kind of give up, your speed may just fall off like a rock off of a cliff. But if you're still passionate, you may go up in speed and then gently slow down over time. So it's really hard to say. It's really hard to kind of box somebody in and tell them, it's really hard to say, hey, look, you should be running mod and you should be running stock. There really isn't a really easy way to kind of designate how we choose which classes we should be in. So I guess what's the point of this video? The point is we have mod, we have stock, and it's kind of up in the air as to who should run which class. Here's my personal opinion. I kind of feel like at club races, we'd be better off just running one class. Call it mod, or just call it open buggy and run what you brung. The smarter a racer is, the more likely he is to match the amount of power that's in his car with his driving ability. So, which brings me to a whole other point. It kind of bums me out that anytime you hear the word mod, everybody thinks, oh my God, you know, Dakota Fenn runs a 7.5 or Ryan Cavalier runs a 7.5. If we want to race mod, we have to have a 7.5. When many, many times I show up at a track and a 13.5 will make every single jump on the track. And if it won't, then a 10.5 probably will. And so I think one of the smartest things you can do is only use enough motor to get the job done. When you start adding more motor to your car than you really need, you're just making it harder to drive, harder on your equipment, more tire spin, more tire wear, all this stuff. So, you know, I guess these are my thoughts on stock. And so let me just recap real quick what I think some of the benefits of stock racing are. That there is a semi-controlled playing field and you're more likely to have some really close racing. In my opinion, stock racing really breaks down to this: no mistakes racing. You really can't overdrive a stock car to kind of make up time because you're already pushing it as hard as you possibly can, and there just really isn't the extra horsepower to kind of overdrive the car, if you will. One of the downsides is that it can get very expensive when these guys start getting crazy, although I think that myself and others have proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that you don't have to have a $2,000 car to go out there and compete. Cars like Team Associates B5M Lite right out of the box are very, very competitive, and basically with no upgrades, I've taken that car and I've put it in several A mains, some very big events, just right out of the box. And so here's one more idea. You know, the top pros really are the elite in this hobby, sport, call it what you will. These are guys that actually get paid to go out here and race toy cars. Now, in any other hobby or any other sport, let's just say motocross, they're not going to let a guy like me on the track with Ryan Villopoto. Now, I'm not saying that these are complete analogs, right? Because the consequences are a little different. There's a lot more money in motocross, but more importantly, someone's actual health could be in jeopardy if an idiot like me jumped on a dirt bike and doesn't know how to go over the big triple and I land on the guy or crush him or get in his way, right? Where if you run, let's just say Ty Tessman off the track, you're not going to hurt him physically, but you might hurt his pocketbook, right, if he's about to win a race. We've definitely reached a time when I think we should consider creating an elite class for the fastest guys. And there should be some type of criteria for getting in there. So like, let's just say a guy like me on my very, very best day with a perfect drive, never missing a corner, no marshals, no complaints, no traffic incidents, the best I got is probably 10, 11 seconds back in a 5-minute heat from these top guys. Now, 10 seconds doesn't seem like all that much, but in the world of RC racing at a very high level, that's like an eternity. I mean, that means you could go to the big event and you'd be lucky to be middle back of the C with that type of distance back. And if it's a big enough event, you could be much farther back than that. But there are guys out there. There are guys like a local right here from Santa Clarita down in California here, Jake Mayo. Jake is he's just generating the speed now where he's up there and able to compete at some of the highest levels. And so the issue is, how do we create a criteria to keep guys, let's just say my skill level and below, out of these elite classes, but give opportunities to guys like Jake Mayo and some of these up-and-comers across the country to actually go out there and compete against the biggest, the biggest and baddest of the industry. Okay, so that was long-winded. I know, I agree. Now, before we wrap this video up, let me just, I've been sitting here literally editing this video and looking at Facebook and watching the comments roll in because I posted a screenshot of the video that I was making, this one right here. And so I've been editing and reading. You know, one thing I want you guys at least consider is that stock motors probably outsell mod motors 10 or 20 to 1. Batteries for stock outsell mod batteries because these things are so vitally important. And so any changes that we make to these classes, they're gonna have basically an impact, that kind of a ripple effect through the industry, through hobby shops, through manufacturers. And so unfortunately, we can't really predict or control how that will change the industry. But there's no question, I think changes are probably coming in the future. Now, one of my good buddies, Torrance, Torrance is a little bit harsh sometimes, and he's like, I said, I think we should try to find a way to divide people by skill level. He's like, there is a way to do that. It's called the A main, the B main, the C main. And Torrance, you were 100% right. I'm not saying you're wrong. But we have new tools that are being implemented all the time. In fact, Brandon Rohde and the guys over at Live RC and their new program Lifetime, which is basically a replacement for the old scoring software that most of these racetracks have used, it has some serious potential. And I don't know if it's been discussed or if they've even got plans for it in the future, but they're going to be able to rank drivers. I would have to imagine that they'll be able to basically keep track of how many laps you've turned at the tracks you've been at, how many hours of practice you've got, all kinds of things, how many times on average you win at a club level. So I think that there are going to be metrics or statistics that can be used to kind of measure and rank drivers. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I think the only real answer here, I shouldn't say the only real answer, I think one of the answers to the whole issue with stock is maybe ranking us all by skill level. And I know it won't be easy. I think that it'll take time and there'll be obviously be some frustration. But if you could rank us by skill level, there wouldn't be motor wars. There wouldn't be 13-year-old kids, trying to run their B5M Lite out of the box versus 50-year-old guys that have $2,500 racing packages, right? It just wouldn't happen. So I don't know. The other alternative, Aaron Waldron over there at Live RC wrote this. I'm pretty sure it was Aaron. Forgive me if it wasn't, but I read this article about, man, I should have turned my computer down. Facebook's going off. I read this article about us being alphabet snobs. Everybody has to be an A main driver or whatever. And that's definitely the case, and I think we all need to get over that. If you are stuck in the B or the C or whatever, and you're racing against guys that are of your similar skill level, that's where you belong. So who knows? Maybe it's time to do an elite class for the pros and an open buggy for the rest of the world. I really don't know, but I'll be curious to see where this thing goes. So those are just a couple of suggestions or a couple ideas I have. And I think the moral of the story is we've got to find a better way to divide the classes than by motor, because that's really not a good dividing line, I don't think. It just creates obviously division, right, between stock and mod. But what it does is instead of promoting driver skill level, it just promotes buying more stuff to go fast. And I just don't think that's the answer right now. So, all right, well, that's that. I don't claim to have all the answers. I never have. These are complex problems that have complex solutions. And hopefully, as an RC community, we'll figure this out over time. In the meantime, go out there, race, try to win, but have fun. Enjoy the smack talk. Enjoy learning about how your car works and functions. Enjoy tuning it. Enjoy every minute on the track. And hopefully we'll find some good answers to some of these complex problems here in the near future. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. I know it's a little controversial. Obviously, I have my opinions. I'm sure you have yours, and I would love to hear your opinions in the comment sections of this video. And who knows, maybe we'll do a follow-up video very soon. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. I just want to say thanks again for watching my videos. I appreciate you guys watching. If you enjoyed this video, you'd be doing me a huge favor if you could either like, comment, or even better, subscribe. I post a lot of stuff on social media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, stuff like that. So if you want to catch up with me, I'll post this stuff up for you. And you can come on over, add me as a friend, follow me on Instagram, and you'll be able to see things that just don't make it to YouTube. Again, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.